All right, welcome back, Truth Seeker. Going to talk a little bit more about the reported mass shooting at Michigan State, which happened Monday, February 13th, 2023, in the evening time. It's being covered as a top story in the U.S. media today, pretty much by all networks, on Valentine's Day. And it's reminding us a lot of 2018, where we had the shooting on Valentine's Day at Stoneman Douglas High School, which set off the March for Our Lives protests. But remember, that year, the Stoneman Douglas High School shooting, the high school was the Eagles, and their logo was just like the Philadelphia Eagles, who'd just been in the Super Bowl, which is exactly what happened this year. Eagles Super Bowl, and now on Valentine's Day, we're talking about a school shooting again. And you might recall with the Stoneman Douglas High School shooting, the first student they interviewed, she told the story about how her grandfather survived a mass shooting in Philadelphia. And at the time, the media said that was kind of the first ever mass shooting on public record. But let's talk about familiar patterns and let's talk about big agendas and what's really going on, especially since this happened at the Michigan State Spartans. And if you look into Spartan culture, their education system was about training a youth for a life in the military, to be warriors, soldiers. And of course, America is primarily a military state. It's been at war for nearly every year of its existence. And in the post 9/11 agenda, everything's a lot more militarized, including city police. We've seen the armored vehicles in the media at the Michigan State campus. Again, after 9/11, millions upon millions of dollars was sent to every city in America so that the police forces could become militarized. But yeah, we'll break it all down here. Notice the CNN headline, Father Says Gunman Became Evil Angry After Mother's Death. And we'll get to why those words evil, angry are emphasized. But one of the storylines is that one of the MSU students survived the Oxford High School mass shooting in Michigan of November 30th, 2021. You might recall how that became tied to football. University of Michigan had their big playoff game, and they wore the number 42 for the player Tate Myers, who had been killed reportedly in the Oxford shooting, and then they won the game with 42 points in tribute to Tate Myers, a span of 42 days from the shooting. But in this case, from that Oxford shooting to this shooting at Michigan State, again, both in the state of Michigan, 440 days later, 440. And of course, the latest shooting happens on February 13th, the 44th day of the year. And in Gematria, shooting equals 44, as does Michigan. And again, if you're new here, Gematria is a very simple practice of coding numbers into words based on the alphabetic order and the reverse alphabetic order. So shooting equals 44 when you run the alphabetic order forwards and incorporate numerology. Michigan equals 44 when you run the alphabetic order in reverse and incorporate numerology. Now, in light of talking about Michigan State and a mass shooting on Valentine's Day, one of the first thoughts I had was their former star basketball player, Denzel Valentine, who went on to play his pro career in Chicago, a city known for the Valentine's Day shooting massacre. But Denzel Valentine's full name, Denzel Robert Valentine, has gematria of 246, and the country is 246 years old right now. And Oxford High School also equals 246. But if you drop his middle name and just do Denzel Valentine, how he was commonly known, it equals 168. And that's real interesting because Michigan State University just turned 168 years old the day before the shooting, February 12th, which was the day of the Super Bowl, with the Eagles in it, who wear green, like the Michigan State Spartans do. And of course, green's connected to the heart chakra. And with all these mass shootings, the federal agents are making an emotional appeal for you to give up your rights and liberties. That is why they do this. They're continually tugging at your heartstrings and performing rituals to take away your rights and liberties. For anyone who says, well, how could they sync up Denzel Valentine with the shooting? You have to understand, a lot of these guys who are growing to play for the collegiate sports team, the professional sports team, they're not like you and I. They are born and bred to be. They are named accordingly. They are super ritualistic. They got Valentine wearing number 45 in Illinois, the state that equals 45, where the Valentine's Day massacre happened. Now, all these years later at his school, we're talking about his school getting shot up, and it's the big news story on Valentine's Day. Again, year after year, we're showing how perfect all of these rituals are because we're living out planned agendas. Again, this nation has been hijacked. I don't know why Americans can't wrap their mind around it. The founders warned the American people that their country could be hijacked by the same forces they were trying to escape from Europe. That's why they gave ourselves the right to have freedom of speech against government so we could speak against it. It's why they gave us the right to bear arms so we could protect ourselves from the government. And notice, the First Amendment and the Second Amendment are under attack at the same time, and it all goes together, right? The people who speak out against these agendas, they get taken down for hate speech. For everything I've said so far in this video, I've lost 100 videos to date and 20-some channels for saying things just like this that they label hate speech. And again, my critics will say, well, sometimes you rant a lot more than that. Yeah, sometimes I do. But again, videos like this do get taken down for hate speech where I don't say anything other than exposing the agenda. You know, I just got a 2-week suspension for showing why they released the Memphis video the night of Memphis playing Minneapolis, George Floyd City, and the ritual they did with those two teams. Nothing even remotely close to hate speech. 2-week suspension. Another channel on the verge of deletion. Anyhow, with regards to Michigan State University celebrating its birthday on the day of Super Bowl 57, for the record, Michigan State's 57. Michigan State Spartans is 132, kind of like the date 13/2, the day of the shooting. Talked about that last night. But again, Eagles in the Super Bowl, Stoneman Douglas. Eagles in the Super Bowl, now Michigan State Spartans. From last night, it's ticked up from 1 dead to 3 dead. Last night they were saying 1 dead, 5 injured. Now it's 3 dead, 5 injured. And again, one of the storylines, Oxford student speaking out in the media about living through the Oxford shooting and now this. Again, 440 days after that shooting at Oxford in Michigan. This shooting on the 44th day of the year. If you're new here, this is the number I always emphasize in state-sponsored mass shootings. Again, I do have a book out there. Go to GematriaEffectNews. Multiple ways to get the book. You can buy it and support the work, or you can download it for free. In the book Letters and Numbers, there's a chapter over 100 pages long going over state-sponsored mass shootings over several decades, and you'll see that in nearly every single one, the number 44 is clearly encoded. Super redundant pattern. And again, just with regards to them being the Spartans, in tribute to Sparta, the military-based society. And keep in mind, we just had this UFO ritual over Lake Huron, which I'll talk more about. But that's right next to Michigan. That was the big focus in the news that day before the shooting at Michigan State. Again, they're all focused on the UFO incidents. And again, the latest one right next to the campus. And then this happens. But Sparta was a military-centered society. And what's on campus after the shooting? The militarized police, the armored vehicles. And, one of my earliest videos, back when I first started this in 2013, was showing how when TV was a brand new thing, how every single news anchor on every major network was military educated. It's a reminder of what really controls this nation, the Pentagon. Everything is a military agenda at the end of the day. Giant surveillance military state is what America is, born out of a genocide, killing the people who lived here before. There's that nice armored vehicle. Every police department has one in the post 9/11 era. Prior to that, nobody had anything like this. These things were saved for war zones. And they said U.S. military instead of city police. As for the name of the woman who survived both the Oxford shooting and this, who's in the media today, her name is Gabrielle Mancini, which happens to have the same gematria as Oxford, just for the record. And her surname alone, Mancini, is 45, like how we are on the 45th day of the year, like how it's synced up with Denzel Valentine, the former Michigan State basketball star, who wears 45 in the NBA. And they're saying the two locations where the killing happened, MSU Union and Berkey Hall. Notice the gematria both. MSU Union 45, Berkey Hall 45. Talking about it on the 45th day of the year. I saw this on the news today on the 45th day on Morning Joe. For the record, Rituals 45. Yeah, no, Nikki Haley today is taking on number 45, Donald Trump, 25 days after her own birthday when Trump equals 25. And, for the last 8 years, I've been talking about Trump rituals and 45 and 25. But again, that's also federal government related. Everything the feds do and everything related to the feds and all their little federal puppets from Trump to Nikki Haley to Biden, they all operate by the code day after day. For the record, if you run Berkey Hall the other way, it equals 54. Like Spartans equals 54. Like Stoneman Douglas equals 54. Like Jesuit Order equals 54. And again, in light of the parallel with the Stoneman Douglas shooting on Valentine's Day, remember, Sandy Hook Elementary School and Stoneman Douglas High School have that exact same gematria, forwards and backwards, 113, 121. And they're both numbers that are highly symbolic. But in this case, today's shooting is in Lansing, Michigan, where the campus is. Lansing is also 113, and so is Eagles. And remember, Patrick Mahomes just became 11-3 in the playoffs by beating the Eagles. The headline is emphasized evil angry. Father says gunman became evil angry after mother's death. Evil angry, 113. And by the way, they said the Super Bowl had 113 million viewers. Remember, it was the Abe Lincoln Bowl and Emancipation Proclamation equals 113 as well. But Ethan Crumbley, remember, he pleaded guilty to 24 federal charges on October 24th. From that day to this shooting was a span of 113 days. And if you're new here and you're wondering, what's the greater significance of some of these numbers? Again, a lot of these numbers are taken from spiritual texts because this whole practice of coding numbers into words comes from Jewish mysticism, Kabbalah. It's called Gematria. And again, in the Talmud, Bava Kama 113a says it's okay for somebody who's Jewish to lie to somebody who's not Jewish, who's a Goyim or a Gentile. And it's just like the member they sacrificed a day-lost soul. He went by the name True Goy. True Goyim. Anyhow, Bava Kama 113a. And a Jewish person would want you to know that verse is only true in a legal setting, but then again, ask yourself, where in this world are you not in a legal setting? Is there anywhere you can go in the world that you're aware of where you're not held to some kind of law? Okay, so with that clarified, Bava Kama 113a, it's okay for Jews to lie to Goyim. Mainstream equals 113. Who runs all the cable news networks? Dishonest equals 113. Perverted equals 113. Not true equals 113. Not honest equals 113. Not factual equals 113. Disinfo equals 113. Politics equals 113. Perjury equals 113. Fiction equals 113. So does bullshit. Realize all these things have to do with dishonesty. Infidelity equals 113. Divorce equals 113. Sinister 113. Erroneous 113. Remember when Anderson Cooper was pretending like he was at the site of Sandy Hook and then he got busted because the green screen glitched? And he held up the owl, said a little girl drew an owl, and then asked that only military and police be allowed to have guns, like how it is in communist China. Remember what they just did to start the year? The Chinese Lunar New Year festival shooting hoaxes by the numbers? Tribute to where the laws are going to, just like communist China, which has been run by the Jesuits, who are the Jewish Catholic Alliance, which is what people were fleeing from when they came over to America and founded this nation and gave ourselves the right to have free speech and a Second Amendment so we could protect ourselves from these type of infiltrators and tyrants who now run this nation, but most people don't see it because they're too, they got too much red stuff on their fingers because the Cheetos are too good and their guts are too big to get up off their fat asses and it's just easier to flip to the next channel, watch another sports game, another movie, another Netflix. Anyway, these same people, they're very clever and they got everybody right where they want them. Green screen, the master of the green screen, George Lucas. Have you ever seen his first film? Because it's about the day and age we're living in. THX 1138. You should check out that movie. If you don't know about Piltdown Man, look into Piltdown Man. Piltdown Man was an admitted hoax after 41 years. And again, if you're new here, Gematria, alphabetic order, forwards and backwards with numerology. But Piltdown was the first proof of evolution, and the hoax lasted for 41 years before it was admitted to as a scientific fraud. But notice, Piltdown equals 41, how long it lasted as a hoax. And it's also 113, the number of deception. And if you look into it, you'll also find out it was connected to the history of white supremacy because it was used as proof in England that white people were superior because they were the oldest, most evolved race. But, the whole O.J. Simpson hoax, and it was, his whole trial's a hoax. Everything about it's a hoax. O.J. Simpson 113 like Ron Goldman. Princess Diana, her whole death ritual, by the numbers. Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, both 113 like the National Basketball Association. And since making this post many years ago, Kobe's now dead by the numbers. But the National Basketball Association's the 113 league. And remember, they locked it down on the 11th day of the third month over the supposed coronavirus pandemic that was declared that day on 11/3, where the media still doesn't talk about the simulation they ran before it by all the companies that profited, and the simulation also had the Chinese and U.S. CDC in participation. Kobe's retirement poem, Dear Basketball, the team he played his last game against, the Utah Jazz, the 113 team in the NBA. By the way, 113 is the 30th prime. There's 30 teams in the league. And remember, the pandemic in the league on March 11th, when it was locked down, the same day they declared the pandemic worldwide, was blamed on Rudy Gobert of the Utah Jazz, who's from France, where the Jesuits are from, where the Scottish Rite came to power. That's the most Jewish branch of Freemasonry that was created by the Jesuit order. Scottish is also 113. See how Scottish Rite's 57, Super Bowl 57. Patrick Mahomes came in 10-3 into the Super Bowl and exited 11-3 versus the Eagles with 113 million viewings, so they tell us. Mainstream information. What do you mean it's not true? I saw it on TV. And just with regards to, the Scottish Rite and Jews, just for the record, Scottish Rite 57, Jews 57. See how that goes? And if you followed the Super Bowl, you saw how Juju Smith-Schuster showed up in a Scottish kilt. Get it? Another Manchurian. Been saying that for years. No accident. The guy's name's Juju. And they got him at Super Bowl 57 after they moved him to the Chiefs. He went from the Steelers to the Chiefs like Len Dawson, who was sacrificed exactly 172 days before the Super Bowl while the city of Kansas City was 172 years old. And then you had the Kelce brothers Super Bowl where Travis Kelce's also 172. And then you had Garrett Reed rolling over in his grave, born on the 103rd day of the year. Dad's dead so that his dad could win this Super Bowl in the 103rd season. The coach of the Chiefs. By the way, the Jesuit motto ad Merum Dei Gloriam is 172 as well. But yeah, just to remind how football fits in. Again, all of these mass shootings are rituals that are part of a bigger plot. Again, it's just like, the Roman government controlled its people with the Colosseum. The U.S. government, which is the new Roman government, thus all the Roman architecture, they also are the same entity that controls your government controls all your sports leagues. That's why all the rituals are perfectly synced up. Again, they wore the 42 on the helmets for Michigan, and then one with 42 points a span of 42 days from the shooting in tribute to Tate Myers after the Oxford shooting. So again, just football and shootings. Eagles in the Super Bowl, Stoneman Douglas. Eagles in the Super Bowl, Michigan State. Another storyline is that one of the survivors, or one of the people at Michigan State, also went to Sandy Hook. And the proof of this Sandy Hook survivor is their TikTok account. The media tells us the person goes by JMatt on TikTok. JMatt on TikTok. Funny enough, it equals 44, going with the 44th day of the year. And, you just never know if what I'm saying is going to get the latest video and channel taken down for hate speech. Because, again, sadly, hate speech is just stating facts, but everyone should know that the parent organization that's led the war on the First Amendment out of Sandy Hook, have you looked into what religion they're all in? Because they all happen to be in the same religion. I'll give you a clue. It starts with a J, and then it goes EWISH. I'm sure it's just a coincidence. But Lenny Posner. Old Lenny. But anyway, did you guys see when Robbie Parker got issued $120 million for Robbie Parker? 120 million. Illuminati's 120 for the record. It was founded by the Jesuit Adam Weishaupt, who's also of a similar background. But the shooter, they said the shooter was 43-year-old Anthony McRae. And if you're 43, that does mean you're in your 44th year of life. Again, for people who don't know that one, the day you're born, do you begin your 0th year of life? No, you begin your 1st year of life. And then when you turn 1, you begin your 2nd year of life. So when you turn 43, you begin your 44th year of life. And there is a great significance to 43 as well. It's a number connected to killing. But notice his name in Gematria in light of the federal agenda. Anthony McRae is the exact same in every cipher as Washington, D.C. And here's a Jesuit goon that's name is also the exact same in every cipher as Washington, D.C., Anthony Fauci, who went to Holy Cross and is a Jesuit. The Jesuits are a Catholic-Jewish alliance, for people who don't know. They're kind of like the mafia. Kind of like how in The Sopranos, who do they all go to? They go to the Jew, right? All the Italian mobsters go to the Jew. So anyway, Anthony McRae, the exact same in all 4 ciphers as Washington, D.C. Society of Jesus has the Gematria of 191, which is the 43rd prime, going with the 43-year-old shooter. And notice how Society of Jesus overlaps with the shooter's name, Washington, D.C. Notice also how active shooter overlaps in 2 ciphers with Anthony McRae, 191 and 61. And just like the Oxford shooting was synced up with the governor, Gretchen Whitmer, so is this one. 191, the shooting was 191 days before Gretchen Whitmer's upcoming birthday. That means it was also 174 days after her last birthday, which goes with false flag. And that's what all of these operations are. A false flag is when somebody carries something out for the sake of an agenda and blames it on a false party. That's what the federal government does to us day after day. And if there really is an Anthony McRae and he really did fire shots at Michigan State, again, like I said a million times before, look into the show that Amazon remade in the time of the pandemic called Utopia. It's about billionaires controlling the world and all their devious tactics to do it. One of the things that it shows that the billionaires is doing is raising children for media propaganda, and some of those children are being raised to be school mass shooters. Isn't that nice? And the larger plot of the show is that the billionaires want to fake a pandemic so that they can mass vaccinate the world to sterilize and kill off the population. Thank you, Amazon, for the remake in 2020 in the time of the COVID lockdowns. Very nice touch. And let's not forget, they're headquartered in Seattle, where the first case in the world was confirmed outside of China in the land of the biggest needle, the Space Needle, in Bill Gates' backyard, who became a celebrity the same year Amazon was founded, and they both started in New Mexico and went up to Seattle. New Mexico, the land of aliens. Seattle, the land of the Space Needle. Anyway, if you're new here, I've been talking about the exact same patterns over and over for a decade. All of these numbers are the exact same ones we talk about in every stream. Doesn't matter if it's in this state, this country. It's the same thing every time. And they got that strong thing going. Spartan strong, right? Gematria 5679, like Society of Jesus. Like, remember, Anthony Fauci, 56. The pandemic declared on his 79th day of being 79 years old. And he's a Jesuit. Jesuits are the Society of Jesus. And, just the whole green thing. Again, the heart chakra's green, pulling on the heartstrings. Eagles, Michigan State, Claire Papulius, who was inside Berkey Hall at the time of the shooting, gives her account of what happened. And the mayor, Andy Shore, he just happens to be 47 years old right now. That license plate behind me says, what is 47? Here, let me make it bigger. That's the government authority number. That's the government authority number. What is 47? Another special signature number. Interesting that he just happens to be the 47-year-old mayor at the time of this. And Let's see. His name also just happens to equate with shooting. Again, they got all the right puppets in all the right places. And hey, coming back to the Super Bowl, remember, Missouri just happens to be in the time of their 57th governor as they win Super Bowl 57 while the owner's 57 years old, and his birthday just happens to be the same day as Patrick Mahomes' September 17th, which is the day in history the NFL was founded. And then the new governor of Pennsylvania just happens to be from Kansas City. And he just took office this year. In the Andy Reid Bowl, in the year that Len Dawson dies, who went from Pennsylvania to Kansas City in his NFL career, who just happened to die on Kobe Bryant Day, who's from Philadelphia. There's a much bigger game here being played. Andy Shore. The FBI is asking for photos or videos on MSU shooting. Like, always, it's just like, how's it even possible? There's cameras everywhere. I've never been to a college campus that doesn't have cameras everywhere at this day and age. Everyone has cell phones everywhere. I mean, just like, how hard could it be to have video? There's a camera everywhere in this world right now, but somehow in these mass shootings that are the big news, the police are always having trouble tracking down the shooter. It's taken hours. I mean, New York, remember New York City last year, the subway shooting on the anniversary of the start of the American Civil War, April 12th, and it was blamed on a black man and think Underground Railroad, slavery. But the police said he fired 33 shots, but it took him 30 hours to get him because the cameras just happened to be out in that subway. And again, New York City has cameras everywhere. But 33 shots, 30 hours, shooting on the 102nd day of the year. Notice the Gematria police. Again, corrupt authority. I was just documenting what happened up here in the small town of Yakima, Washington, with the national news story of the mass shooting. And then the standoff at the supposed shooter's house. And then all day, the police are around. If you guys missed it, I went to the scene of the standoff. And when I got there, there was no yellow tape up, just cops standing around with their hands in their pocket. Meanwhile, on TV, they're like, standoff in Yakima after psychotic shooter. They're making it sound all exciting on TV, but then you go there and nobody's doing anything. And then you notice the street they're standing on is spelled ALMO, almost like Alamo, like a standoff. The almost Alamo at Elmo. And if you missed that, I was asking questions, and then the cops started shoving me and pushing me around, and then they put up crime tape once I got there. It's like, now it's a crime scene. Okay. So, but they're saying this was the 67th mass shooting of the year. And again, there are shootings in this country, but I'm yet to see any mass shooting in the news in all these years. Sandy Hook, even before that, Columbine. I'm yet to see any of these mass shootings they report on. I'm yet to see any proof that any of them happened. And that's true for you, too, if you're out there. You haven't seen any proof that any mass shooting happened. Not one. You haven't seen a single body. I don't even know if you've seen as much as bullet holes in anything. They don't show you anything. They just give you a story and pictures of things like this. Police situated, a bunch of police cars parked on the street. Just like when I went to Yakima, there was like 50 police cars there. A bunch of people just standing around. And then after, standing there for 10 hours, they said the shooter committed suicide by the target. And then I drove over to the target and there was nothing going on over there. Just a made up story. It was the stand around at the Almost Alamo. And then they had the same type of story the next month down in Oregon, the state just south. And they said the shooter shot himself after the standoff. No proof any of it happened. They said the shooter shot himself. I mean, they almost always shoot themselves, right? But then we look at it and we say, wow, the exact same numbers again. The exact same pattern again. So, let me put my eyes on the chat and let's see if there's anybody out there who has any information. Does anybody else have any additional information I'm missing out on? Thank you, RIG, Rest in Gematria. I appreciate it. Yeah, that is true. The the Posner child, his photo's been up all over the world in mass shootings. Should make a new religion around that child. He's resurrected several times. TMM176 says Lansing has a lot of shootings, but they never make the news. Exactly. The only ones that make the news are the ones that are the state-sponsored stories, the propaganda, the storylines meant to appeal at people's emotions so that politicians can get on TV and say, enough is enough. When are we going to do something to, restrict your rights and liberties? I've covered that. I've covered the train spill in Ohio several times. Again, they just filmed the movie White Noise there about a chemical spill. And yeah, here, I'll show you that. A lot of people are that video didn't get a lot of views, so I'm guessing nobody got a notification. What else is new? But yeah, from the release of the film White Noise, filmed in the same town about a chemical spill, to this train that spilled the chemicals. The film was released August 31st. The train derailment was February 4th, 157 days later. Accident 157, 157 is the 37th prime. They released the chemicals on February 6th, the 37th day of the year, where both train and chemicals are 37. And February 6th can also be written 2-6. Kind of like how Bryant equals 26 and 37. Kobe dead on the 26th on the 37-year anniversary of Bear Bryant. And Kobe also died on his 157th day of his age. And Kobe Bryant equals 157. And he supposedly died in an accident. And his dad's nickname, Jelly Bean, equals 157. Kobe dead at 41. He retired 41 years after his father was drafted by Golden State, which equals 41. Like Kobe Bryant equals 41. Dead on the Pope's 41st day of his age while traveling from Catholic Mass, coming back to those Jesuits. But, run the victims' names. Did they put up? All right. They have been identified. Police on Tuesday identified 2 of the 3 victims of Monday night's mass shooting at Michigan State University. 2 of the 3. Brian Frazier of Grosse Pointe and Alexandria Werner of Clausen. Here, let's look up and see if they have a social media presence, first of all. Like, I looked up the girl who went to the Oxford, and her LinkedIn page came up right away, so she seemed like a real person. Oh, here they have the other person's name now, Ariel Anderson. Well, maybe all that's going to come up are all the articles with their names, so it might be trickier. But here, yeah, we can plug in the name Gematria. So we got Brian Frazier, Ariel Anderson, and Alexandria Werner. Okay. Brian Frazier, 57. Just like Michigan State. In fact, his name's the same forwards and backwards. 5778. Okay. And we talked about how the school just celebrated its birthday on the day of Super Bowl 57. 111 is also a number that's relevant to the Super Bowl just because the Chiefs are now on 111 points scored in Super Bowls, and Kansas City Royals won the 111th World Series, and the Queen was born on the 111th day of the year and died at the start of the season. But yeah, the 5778, so the guy's name is just like Michigan State. Ariel Anderson. Let's see. 152. This was a huge number in the Oxford shooting. If you missed my video at the time of Oxford, everything was happening 152 that year. Michigan's 152. So Ariel Anderson's 152. The Attorney General for Michigan, the shooting, and she went to University of Michigan. Actually, I want to say the shooting happened. Hold on. hold on. Let me go back and pull up the Oxford shooting. I just want to make this point about 152. But there was so much 152 stuff we were documenting. It was the 152nd college football season that year. Michigan's last big win was in tribute to the Oxford shooting. Madonna's had a movie out, and the actress who played her died 152 days from Madonna's birthday. Again, Madonna went to University of Michigan. That was right there. Jamie Ald. Hold on. The Attorney General, though, said there would be gun reform in her state. And let me make sure I got the point here. By the way, Joe Biden also equals 152, another guy that said there would be gun reform, and Michigan was a key state for him. And we predicted that Michigan would be a key state for Biden, because for people who weren't here, I said why Biden would become the 46th president 46 weeks after the Pope's birthday when Catholic equals 46 and JFK was killed at 46. And I said, watch, Michigan equals 44, as we talked about. You run it the other way, it equals 46. But, all right, the Attorney General who spoke out after the Oxford shooting and said there would be gun reform in her state, the Oxford shooting happened 152 weeks after she took office. On the nose. 152 weeks. So, we got one victim, Brian Frazier, whose name equals Michigan State. We got Ariel Anderson, who's 152 like Michigan. If you put a "the" in front of Society of Jesus, the Society of Jesus, it's got these same... Here, I'll just show you real quick. I'll write it out. Okay, because it's the Jesuits who run the whole thing. The Society of Jesus got that 7191. Catholic is also 71 for the record. JFK, number 35, killed at age 46. Again, 46 books in the Catholic Old Testament, the Jewish Catholic connection. 145 more chapters in the Catholic Old Testament. And here, Alexandria Werner, the only name we haven't run yet. 171, the 18th triangular, 81 ritual, 261. The United States of America is 261 and 99. Hold on, I was just looking at my notes here. What was I saying about 99 in this shooting? I don't know if there's something else with connection is the least identifiable to the school in the state. Oh, Michigan State University is also 111. Coming back to that guy who's got the 5778, 111. So Michigan State 5778, Michigan State University 111. And again, Michigan State Spartans 13/2, 132, like the date of the shooting, 13/2. But yeah, the third name is, I mean, I do see things that are interesting in the name, but in terms of like a correct connection to the school or the state, maybe she's the only real one. Again, for somebody who could say, well, how do you know those other people aren't real? There's their pictures right there. Again, check out this website, thispersondoesnotexist.com. Do you think that's a real person right there? What about this person? Is that a real person? Is this a real person? How about this person? Is this a real person? The answer for all of these will always be no, because all of these are digitally created images every time you refresh the screen. And the purpose of this website... It might be. I learned about this website from CNN's front page. CNN had this website as a front page story one day, and the caption was something like, "It's hard to know what's true on the internet." And I was like, okay, is CNN trying to drop the clue for what they do every day with their contrived propaganda? This person does not exist.com. That last one actually looked like she could have been one of my mom's sisters. But yeah, I mean... If we were hearing the story right now and they told you her name was Cyndi Lauper and she was just killed at a girls just want to have fun party, I mean, how would you know it wasn't true? So, how many like that last girl I guess you can't go back. That last girl, you know, she looked like a halfway cute digital AI. I'm sure there's all kinds of just like fake, just totally made up fake faces on dating profiles, probably like just collecting data and information. Anyway, none of those people are real, so. Thank you, 13 Serpents. You're very generous. I heard it got real cold in Vegas. King Henry told me and said the temperature dropped from 60-some degrees yesterday to freezing today. More weather shenanigans on Valentine's Day. Yeah, exactly. I'm surprised they didn't say her name was Sharon Stone either. Sharon Stone's brother Patrick, dead at age 57, the day of Super Bowl 57 as Patrick Mahomes wins. Plus her birthday's 10-3, like the 103rd season. But yeah, if you guys got here late, I think we went over all the main points, and now we went over the victims too. I'll add that to I'll add that information to the post. You know, I'm going to come back and do another live stream, you guys. I'm going to dedicate it to Jay with Open Eyes. If you don't know who that is, he's a young person in our community, and he's been going through a rough time lately. But I want to talk about what's going on with him. And Charmed once said it's a good day to do something for somebody nice. Instead of doing something nice for me today, you guys do a lot of nice things for me almost every day. We'll do something nice for It's Jay with Open Eyes. And there's other people in this community who could use some support. Truth Vibration Podcast, he could use something nice. Ocho from the Ocho could use something nice. So, but yeah, I want to do a stream for Jay with Open Eyes. So I will be back shortly. Stream should be up in 20 minutes or less. So stay tuned. If you don't get a notification, just come back to the channel. You'll find it. Till next time, everybody.